Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode. This is Take It to the Hizzy Fantasy Football, TITTH number 24. I am your host, Justin Bruni. Today we are going over our Week 12 must-starts, who we are absolutely plugging in our fantasy lineups in the quarterback, wide receiver, running back, and tight end position. The other night we had Indy and Houston facing off on Thursday Night Football. A pretty good game. If you were following me on Facebook, you would have saw that I was on Indy +3 and the under. Had that parlayed, so I took it to the hizzy, if you will, the other night and made a little bit of profit. If you guys are looking for some more opportunity tomorrow, be sure to tune into the live show at 11:30 Eastern here on Facebook, or I guess right now I'm on YouTube, but tomorrow I'll be on Facebook. Live, 11:30 Eastern. We'll be going over the overs, unders, some money lines, some spreads, who we're liking, of course, fantasy, who we're plugging into our lineups, who we're keeping on our benches, and, rolling into the Week 12 preview. So be sure to jump in tomorrow around 11:30 Eastern, and we'll really get things rolling for Week 12. Right now, let's just kick it off here with the must-starts. At the quarterback position, first up, I got Baker Mayfield hosting Miami, Dolphins coming into Cleveland. Baker Mayfield has thrown 6 passing touchdowns and only 1 interception since the bye, so he's getting some momentum here. He's been looking good as of late. He's got 2 passing touchdowns in his past 2 games at least, playing up against Miami, who's allowing the 3rd most fantasy points against to the quarterback position. Miami is also allowing the 3rd most yards per completion, 4th most passing touchdowns allowed. You kind of see where I'm going here. Average QBR rating allowed by the Dolphins is 104, right? So a lot of upside here for the Browns and Baker Mayfield. Like him to throw 2 touchdowns. Maybe he sprinkles in a 3rd with just a 3rd passing touchdown, or rushing something at the goal line, or rolling out on a play action or something like that, corner of the end zone. So yeah, like Baker Mayfield, easy start this week. I know he's been inconsistent this year, but in a good spot here at home, hosting the Dolphins. Fire him up. Next up, I have Matt Ryan hosting the Buccaneers. Ryan and the Falcons have been looking good in recent weeks. Busted up my Carolina Panthers pick a couple weeks ago. Wasn't too happy about that. But this week he's in a good spot hosting the Buccaneers at home. Tampa has allowed the 2nd most passing touchdowns allowed, 2nd most passing yards allowed, 7th fewest sacks recorded, so potentially a little bit more time for Matt Ryan behind the line of scrimmage, and the Buccaneers allowing an average QBR rating of 101. So again, a lot of upside up against this defense. Tampa allowing 3 passing touchdowns in 4 straight games, averaging 280 passing yards against in that same time span that those 4 games. Falcons playing at home, they're on a roll, coming off back-to-back road wins. So Ryan also in a good spot here this week. Buccaneers defense just lending a lot of upside to the quarterback position. Secondary is not looking good whatsoever, and they are a little bit better up against the run. So it de-incentivizes offenses to really try to grind out the clock on the ground, with a lot of rushing attack. I look for the Falcons to have to do a lot of passing in this game. I look for Ryan to hit anywhere over 40 attempts passing. Don't think that we'll see a lot of running on either side. Should be potentially a high-scoring game, at least what it looks like on paper. So I'll take Matt Ryan in that matchup. Jameis Winston, again, not confident enough in him, super inconsistent, has the potential to throw a bunch of picks. So give me Matt Ryan in that matchup at home, hosting the Buccaneers. Next up, I have Sam Darnold with Oakland. Jets playing at home. Raiders are allowing the 5th most passing yards allowed, allowing the 3rd most passing touchdowns allowed. So again, more upside here for Darnold. QBR rating of 100 on average against for the Raiders defense. Darnold has 6 total touchdowns in his past 2 games. Last week he had 4 passing touchdowns up against a poor Redskins defense. So I like his momentum. I like where he's at right now. Is clicking with Jamison Crowder, who we'll get to, who's on this list this week for receivers. Playing at home, like I said, he's got some momentum going here. So I like Sam Darnold this week. I think it's a sneaky start. I think you got to get him into your lineup just based off of the matchup alone. The Raiders defense is just in the secondary just been pretty atrocious. So they've been getting thrown on quite a bit this year. Keep rolling out that same theme here this week with Darnold. I like him to get rolling again, with Crowder, like I mentioned. Griffin, I have on this list. I think Le'Veon Bell scored a touchdown in that game. So, yeah, a lot of upside for the Jets at home this week, including Sam Darnold. Get him into your lineup. Okay, next up we have Jeff Driscoll taking on the Washington Redskins. Really like the matchup here. Sam Darnold made the Redskins look really bad last week, so I'm thinking that Driscoll can come in and at least throw 2 passing touchdowns. Darnold last week had 4. Washington Redskins defense just been really bad overall. 9th most passing touchdowns allowed, QBR rating of 101 allowed on average. They're recording the 8th fewest amount of sacks, so should be a good amount of time for Driscoll behind that offensive line to really cut things up. I like the matchup this week. Looked a little bit better last week than he did the first week filling in for Stafford. So, yeah, easy for me. Fire him up. Looks like he's in a good streaming spot this week and a high-end streamer at that. He's in a really juicy matchup. So, I would definitely get him into my lineup for sure. Maybe get some Jeff Driscoll, Marvin Jones, or Kenny Galladay stacks in DFS or something like that. I think there's going to be some lower percentages there, especially because of this next guy. I really like his stacks as well. Last quarterback I have on the list is Nick Foles at the Titans. So yeah, I like Nick Foles and like a DJ Shark or maybe even a Chris Conley. D.D. Westbrook has been banged up, but he's off the injury report. So I like Nick Foles this week. He's got his weapons there. He should be good to go. And he looked really good last week. Titans defense has allowed at least 2 passing touchdowns in 7 out of 10 games so far this season, and they've allowed at least 2 passing touchdowns in the last 4 games. So fair amount of upside for Nick Foles coming into this spot here. Defense overall is in the middle of the road against the pass as far as like yards and total touchdowns allowed. Foles looked good in the return, obviously, like I mentioned, 33 completions last week with a pair of touchdowns. Great chemistry with DJ Shark. Titans are better up against the run in general, so I think it's a good spot for Foles. I think that the Jaguars are going to be passing a lot this week. I think that they're going to have to lean on that, and even Fournette, I think he'll still catch like 4 or 5 balls. He's been used a lot in the receiving game quite a bit this year, so I like that trend to continue going forward. So fire up Nick Foles, Jeff Driscoll, Sam Darnold, Matt Ryan, and Baker Mayfield. No question this week. All the confidence in those guys to be fantasy relevant and put up big numbers for you at the quarterback slot. Okay, next up I have the running backs. First up I have Tevin Coleman for the Niners hosting the Packers. Coleman has struggled in recent weeks, but I think this is a good spot for him to rebound. Packers have allowed the 9th most rushing yards on the ground, 6th most yards allowed per carry, 4.8 yards. 7th most rushing touchdowns allowed. It's a good spot for Coleman to rebound here. Kittle could be coming back in, so he could be another valuable weapon for the offense. But overall, their receivers are banged up. With Sanders and Kittle, they're their best 2 options being in and out. On and off the injury report, sorry. So I think they need to lean on Coleman a little bit more this week. Breida is also banged up. He may not be a starter this week or be making into the lineup. You might see a combo of Coleman and Mostert, maybe even some Jeff Wilson sprinkled in there. But I like Coleman a lot this week. I definitely want to get him back in my lineup, despite the recent weeks of some struggle. I think he's in a good spot, like I said, to rebound this week. So definitely plug him in, get him in your lineup for sure. Next up, I have Jalen Samuels for the Pittsburgh Steelers going to Cincinnati. James Conner looks like he's going to be out this week. Samuels should get a solid amount of workload. You have Benny Snell Jr. and Trey Edmonds there, but I think Samuels gets the most volume, so I definitely want to get him in the lineup. Cincy, the worst team up against the run, so a really great spot for him. Most rushing yards allowed, 2nd most rushing touchdowns allowed, allowing 5 yards per carry. So whoever's running the ball for the Steelers should be in a good spot this week. They've allowed a league high 336 rushing attempts against. So everybody's running on Cincy. That's just the strategy on them. Just run the ball into the ground, own the clock. Don't have to worry too much about their offense regardless, and keep your defense rested. So really good spot here for Jalen Samuels. Any of these Steelers running backs, if you're trying to throw in some deeper touchdown dependent running back options, one of those guys could steal a goal line touch. But I think the volume and the fantasy relevancy goes to Samuels this week, so I think he's the best option, of course, to start there. Next up, I have Kareem Hunt with Miami. Miami allowing the 9th most fantasy points to the running back position, 3rd most rushing yards allowed, 4.7 yards per carry, less rushing touchdowns allowed. Less rushing touchdowns allowed, 9th, 16th most in the league, just meaning that they're getting passed on a lot, Miami. So there is less upside that he'll run one in, but I think that Kareem Hunt does catch a touchdown this week. He catches 3 or 4 balls and a touchdown, rushes, somewhere like 7 to 9 times for 30 to 40 yards, gets in a total somewhere like 60 to 80 all-purpose yards. I think he is relevant this week, as the Browns won't need Chubb as much to win the battle with Miami. I think that it's going to be not a slower grind-out type of game, but I do think that the Browns go up quick and then they park the bus. So you may see some heavy scoring early on by them. But if they're up by quite a bit, then I see Kareem Hunt getting a lot of touches in garbage time, and the Browns really just trying to park the bus and ride out an easy win with the Dolphins at home. So I don't think they try to get cute with it. I think they'll use Chubb and Kareem Hunt a lot in this matchup, but I think Chubb will get some rest actually in garbage time, and Kareem Hunt will come in and get a little bit of extra action there. So I like Kareem Hunt a lot this week. Fire him up, absolutely, positively. Next up is Darius Geis with the Lions. Lions allowing the 10th most rushing yards, 4.5 yards per carry, tied for 9th most rushing touchdowns allowed with 10. Chris Thompson is coming back this week, but Adrian Peterson is still banged up. So I think that there's more opportunity for Geis in this matchup alone. Chris Thompson will have regulated workload this week. They're going to manage his touches for sure. And if Adrian Peterson does come back and he's just resting, I still look for him to get anywhere from 7 to 10 carries or 7 to 10 touches and still be involved in this game. I just think that Darius Geis gets leaned on the most, and right now he may be the most productive weapon that they have. He did find the end zone last week. He looked strong, but their receivers haven't been consistent. Haskins, just kind of getting rolling here. Not really too sure what to expect from him out of this matchup. So yeah, I like Geis the most for the Redskins. Probably the only guy I would consider starting for them. Okay, last running back up I have is Bo Scarborough, traveling to Washington with the Lions in this Redskins matchup. Really like all the Lions a lot. Bo Scarborough, Marvin Jones, Kenny Galladay, Jeff Driscoll, like them all this week. With Bo Scarborough here, a lot of opportunity up against the Redskins rushing defense. Redskins allowing, 5th most rushing yards allowed. They've been ran on the 2nd most in the league, right behind Cincinnati, 323 carries against, with 4.1 yards allowed per carry. Scarborough looked really good last week, coming off the practice squad. He looked better than the other running backs that they've been using thus far with Ty Johnson, J.D. McKissick. So like him to keep it rolling again this week. Kind of saw the same thing Thursday night with Jonathan Williams. Wasn't necessarily expecting that. So thinking that we might see something similar with Bo Scarborough this week. Gets a little bit more volume, maybe a few more touches in a game where they may go up early, and he might grab a couple extra touches in garbage time. So definitely fire up Scarborough this week. No doubts whatsoever. Scarborough, Darius Geis, Kareem Hunt, Jalen Samuels, and Tevin Coleman. Get those guys in your lineup absolutely this week. They will be fantasy relevant and help you in any close matchups, or maybe help you take it away. Big lead, big wins coming down the stretch here. Every point is important at this time. Everyone's fighting for that last playoff spot, or trying to clinch, if anything. Maybe if you're at the top of the standing. So it's getting serious here. Moving on to wide receivers. We got Mike Evans with the Bucks, traveling to Atlanta against the Falcons. In a really good spot this week. Has struggled in recent weeks, but he's still like a top 5 wide receiver in the league. He's just super peaks and valleys. He's like the epitome of it. This guy. So yeah, really like this spot this week. Falcons allowing the 8th most receiving yards allowed, 7th most receiving touchdowns allowed. I definitely think Mike Evans gets a touchdown this week, maybe 2. Like I said, he's actually a top 5 wide receiver in the league. There's just some weeks that he completely shits the bed. Winston just doesn't target him early on or something like that, and he's getting right at the end of the game, maybe saving it with a touchdown or whatever it is. This week it should be a big week. I know he's been disappointing. He's been inconsistent, right? But I think this is a big week for him. He's had highs, he's had lows. I think this is one of the weeks he's on one of his highs. So definitely fire up Mike Evans this week. Should, like I said, score a touchdown, potentially even 2. Next up, I have DK Metcalf with Seattle traveling to Philly, take on the Eagles. We do have Tyler Lockett coming back, so it takes away some upside for Metcalf, but at the same time, I think actually lends more opportunity for him, draws a little bit less coverage away from Metcalf. Metcalf has just been really good too. 6 catches last week on 10 targets, a touchdown in previous weeks before that. So yeah, he's been given more opportunity recently, and I want to keep riding him going forward. Right now, Philly allowing the 5th most fantasy points to receivers, so there's some upside in this matchup from him. I like Metcalf to score a touchdown, get around 75 receiving yards. I think he does have potential for more. With Russ Wilson at the helm, Lockett coming back. The Eagles are a little bit better up against the run, so I think it lends more upside for the receivers. I like DK Metcalf, and I got Jacob Hollister coming up here as well. So I like the receivers for the Seahawks this week. I just have Lockett a little bit farther down because he's coming back from injury, and I just probably want to wait and see before I tell folks to go ahead and absolutely plug him in. So like Metcalf a lot this week, fire him up absolutely. Okay, next up we have Cooper Kupp with the Rams hosting the Ravens. Cooper Kupp struggled in recent weeks, similar to Mike Evans. Brandon Cooks coming back should be opening up a little bit more availability for Cooper Kupp underneath and in the open field. So I like Cooper Kupp a lot this week. I like him to get anywhere from like 8 to 10 catches. I think a volume receiver like him this week in a matchup where Goff is also looking to get right, looking for the offense to get some more efficiency, some momentum. The Ravens are allowing 11.2 yards per completion, so there's definitely some upside up against the Ravens defense this week, and I think that Cooper Kupp is going to benefit from, like I said, Cooks coming back, the offense in general needing to get right, drop some safe plays, and I think Cooper Kupp's going to be a big part of that. So give me 8 to 10 catches this week and a touchdown. I like him a lot. I think he does get right this week with this matchup. Struggled in recent weeks. I think even last week or was the week before, like 4 targets and no catches. It's absolutely crazy for Cooper Kupp. He should be in the wide receiver 1 conversation or top of the wide receiver 2 conversation, in my opinion. So I like him a lot this week. I think he does find the end zone. 8 to 10 catches. I think he's a solid start. Next up is Jamison Crowder with the Jets hosting the Raiders. He's been hot. I've had him on this list at least once in the last 3 weeks for sure. Not positive, but in that time span, he scored 3 straight touchdowns. The Raiders are allowing 11.9 yards per completion. There's plenty of upside here. Crowder, one of the guys that has the best. Yeah, the guy that has the best connection with Sam Darnold, for sure. We talked about it, all preseason coming into the year, that he was going to be a difference maker coming out of the slot. That him and Darnold, were a real thing. That was going to be the offense really, or how they were going to move the chains most consistently. So it's been pretty much the case here for the past 3 weeks at least. And, that first game of the season, he had like 14 catches. So, yeah, with Crowder and Darnold playing more and more together, I like Crowder more and more. I think he gets 68 catches this week, 85 total yards. Maybe drips in the touchdown, maybe makes it 4 weeks in a row. I don't see why you can't. But 4 touchdowns in 4 straight weeks is difficult, especially to call or to, put your wallet on it, right? Put your money where your mouth is. So I like Crowder a lot. 6 to 8 catches, 70, 85 yards, and maybe he sneaks in the extra touchdown. It's a good spot for it, and he's been hot, so heck, why not? Next up, we got DJ Chark with the Jags traveling to Tennessee, take on the Titans. Looked great with Foles back last week. Pretty much just rolling with all the upside that I have for Foles going up against this defense, and Chark is the guy that's going to be there catching the ball, I think. I like him to score another touchdown this week. Westbrook, like I mentioned before, is off the injury report. I like the DJ Chark and the Nick Foles stack. Titans are allowing 10.8 yards per completion. Give me 7 to 8 catches and a touchdown this week for DJ Chark. I don't think he gets 2, but I think he does get 1. Gets a fair amount of volume and helps him move the chains. And I think the Jags actually pull this one out on the road. So yeah, definitely fire up DJ Chark, Nick Foles. I like that stack a lot. For all the receivers, I have DJ Chark, Jamison Crowder, Cooper Kupp, DK Metcalf, and Mike Evans. Fire up those guys. No concern whatsoever. Absolutely getting them in my lineups this week. Okay, next up we have the tight ends. First up we have George Kittle for the Niners hosting the Packers. I believe that's Sunday Night Football, if I'm not mistaken. George Kittle, he's not active yet, so this is a game-time decision, but if he is playing, you got to get him in your lineup. He logged 6 catches and 70 yards at least in 4 of his last 5 games after the bye. So he came out of the bye, pretty strong. Going in, he was not looking great. People were dropping him. I remember someone texted me weeks ago that, hey, should I pick up Kittle? He's just here, sitting here. Yeah, of course. And of course it paid off, right? But he's been hurt in recent weeks. Looks like he's going to come back. The things I've been hearing are positive, so I expect him to play. But obviously, you're starting him dependent on that. If he is active, absolutely push him into your lineups. The Packers are allowing the 5th most fantasy points to the tight end position. It's a great spot to come back to. Like I said, the things that I've heard are positive, so I hope that he's back in the lineup this week. He's had a couple of weeks to rest up and get right, so I like him in this spot as long as he's playing. Ross Dwelley, I'm not too interested in, not doing too much. He is playing a lot. He's playing like 90% of the snaps, but I'm only grabbing Kittle there. I'm not trying to draw in the backup. So, yeah, if he's active, fire him up for sure. Next up, I have Jacob Hollister with the Seahawks traveling to Philly, take on the Eagles. Like I mentioned, I like DK Metcalf a lot. I like Jacob Hollister here. He's been rolling three touchdowns in his past 2 games, 12 catches on 16 total targets in that same time span. Russ and company, just going to tear up the Eagles this week. I don't like their defense or their secondary. I like Lockett, like I mentioned, but he's just, kind of low man on the totem pole here, coming back off of injury. So I like Hollister a lot. I like DK Metcalf. I like Hollister to grab somewhere in like 4 to 5 catches and a receiving touchdown. Next up I have is Dallas Goedert with the Eagles, also in this matchup, taking on the Seahawks. With the Eagles side of things, they're missing Jeffrey, they're missing Aguilar right now in practice. They're both questionable this week. Deshaun Jackson went down for the year, so they're really hurting it in the receiving room. They have Zach Ertz there, but Dallas Goedert, he has more receiving touchdowns than Zach Ertz. He has 4 receiving touchdowns, and Zach Ertz has 2. I could see Dallas Goedert grabbing, 5 or 6 catches this week and a touchdown, no problem, just based on the fact that Aguilar and Jeffrey may not even suit up. If neither of them suit up, you guys would be crazy not to put Dallas Goedert in your lineup. If one of them suits up, I still think that, you absolutely, plug him in. If both of them suit up, I'd still say to plug him in. I just think that this is a good spot for him. I think that the Seahawks are going to be up early in this matchup. I think that the Eagles are chasing points, and Goddard or Ertz will probably come down with a touchdown in the end zone, and I like Dallas Goedert to do it more. He's just been that sneaky guy for the Eagles, and Wentz really likes him. This is his 2nd year now in the league, and he looked really good with them last year. So I think his role is going to continue to expand going forward, especially in a spot right now where you have these receivers just really banged up. So definitely get Dallas Goedert into your lineup. Like I said, I'm expecting the Seahawks to be up in this one. They'll be chasing points. I think Dallas Goedert and Ertz could both even find the end zone this week. So I think they're both in good spots. Seahawks are allowing the 8th most fantasy points to the tight end position. Seems pretty easy to me to get them in there. Next up, Ryan Griffin with the Jets hosting the Raiders. Another guy who's got a good connection with Sam Darnold. He's recorded at least 50 yards or a receiving touchdown in 4 of his last 6 weeks. So a good amount of upside here up against the Raiders defense that's allowing the 3rd most fantasy points to the tight end position. Raiders secondary, as I've mentioned, hasn't looked great, touching on with Crowder. So I like Ryan Griffin in this spot this week. They sent Herndon to the IR, so you don't have to worry about a backup coming in or stealing any touches or playing time. In this matchup, I like the Jets to score, 3 touchdowns, maybe even a 4th. I like a Bell touchdown, Crowder, and a Griffin. Cut it up however you like, whether it's, Bell running one in and Crowder and Griffin catching one, or, however it's cut up. But I like Crowder, Bell, and Griffin to score a touchdown this week for the Jets. So definitely get those guys in there. I don't think I need to tell you to get Le'Veon Bell in. Pretty much a guy you're plugging in every week. Noah Fant for Denver, taking on the Bills, traveling to Buffalo. Not a great spot for tight ends, but I like Noah Fant this week. I think it's a contrarian take for sure, but I think that Noah Fant has drawn enough connection with Brandon Allen, their new quarterback under center. I think that they have something going here, so I want to keep rolling out Noah Fant each week. He had over 100 receiving yards and a touchdown 2 weeks ago. He had 10 targets last week. I think he had 6 catches on 10 targets, so he's getting a lot more action now, and he looks like he's going to be more of a steady start for us going forward with Allen under center, like I mentioned. So I like Fant this week to get 5 or 6 catches and a touchdown. Not too many yards. I'd probably say like 40 to 60 at most on the receiving yards, but I do like him to find the end zone, and I think he is a helpful, sneaky player to help them keep the chains moving this week. So it'll be a tougher, slower, grinded out type of matchup for the Bills in Denver this week, and I think Noah Fant will benefit from that. Catching a couple of 3 to 7 yard passes, and does finish in the red zone and gets you a touchdown this week. So if you run the numbers, it doesn't say to start a tight end up against the Bills though. So this is definitely more of a contrarian pick. Just something I'm kind of seeing right now between those two. I really like that plug and play. So I say, yeah, absolutely, get Noah Fant in your lineup this week. All the fantasy guys, gurus, and numbers are going to tell you no, but I think he's in a good spot with Allen this week, and he does find pay dirt. So for the tight ends, I had George Kittle, Jacob Hollister, Dallas Goedert, Ryan Griffin, and Noah Fant. Get them in your lineups this week. They're going to be fantasy relevant and help you out, help you get another victory. Coming down to playoff time here, who is in and who is out. So I know we're all desperate for one last win or two to get us in there. Hope this information was helpful. get at me tomorrow. Like I said, 11:30 Eastern. We'll be taking it to the hizzy live on the Facebook. So get on there, share, like, and post the videos. If you have any questions, sit, start. If you can still trade in your league or whatever, just get at me. We're coming to a close here, at least in the regular season. But don't worry, we'll be here for playoffs and even going into like DFS and some gambling for the playoffs, for NFL playoffs. So don't worry, channel's not going away anytime soon. We're going to be here for a while longer here, despite regular season going to be coming to a close here soon. So I'm Justin. Take it to the hizzy. I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Be well. See you tomorrow, 11:30 Eastern. Facebook. See ya. Take care.